Robert,
Yes.
so glad to have you.
Hey, glad to be here, Brooke. Absolutely.
All right. Welcome to everybody who is watching. I want to introduce you all to Robert Pollock. And I want to tell you a little bit about him. First of all, he started and sold his first business before he was 29 years old, which is pretty impressive. He became a hired gun executive during the dot-com boom, which, I mean, needless to say, he knows what to do when things kind of go wonky and crazy. And he's now an executive advisor to over 70 CEOs of small and mid-sized companies across the US. He really believes in investing in the next generation of leaders. So you donate your time, Robert, to a local startup incubator. Do you do like Fort Worth? Is that the one you do?
Correct.
I love that. An incubator and organizations and universities here in the Fort, the good Fort, Fort Worth.
Right.
Because, you know, one of the people on our team lives in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We have this back and forth about what the good Fort is.
Yeah, it's Fort Worth.
Yeah, this is the Fort.
Yeah.
So, and then I think the last thing is a person I have been dying to meet, which is your sainted wife, because she has put up with you for 30 some odd years, 33, something like that?
34. We just went over to 34.
That is amazing. Yep. And together you guys have 4 children and a grandson. How old is your grandson?
1 year. And this is my grandpa graduation mug right here. So that's what you're getting today. Pretty professional, isn't it, Brooke?
Well, you know, I have a styro. But yeah, babies are so cute. So
yeah,
I don't know if you know this. My sister had another baby.
Nope.
My sister. So we're going to go really fast. So one of the things that Robert is very talented at doing is saying, do you have the right people on the bus, and are the right butts in the right seats on the bus?
Yes.
And the first time we met, you had run me through part of the Culture Index program, and you looked at my report and said, you have to stop selling, you hate it. And you didn't even know who I was. I had to raise my hand to say, oh yeah, that would be me. And then the second time I met you, you said, whoever this person is miserable in their job. And I was like, oh yeah, that would be my sister.
I am Mr. Encouragement.
So anyway, so she no longer works for me. She now has 2 children, one of whom is 7 months old. And so I got to keep them all day on Monday. It was so fun.
Oh, fantastic.
Do you get to see your grandson much?
Yeah, he was just here. Obviously, I'm in my home office, and he just left.
Oh, good.
Like 10 minutes ago. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So let's actually talk about what you do. So we're here to talk about creating a team and creating a strong team that will kind of carry you through this downturn.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. And let me get some feedback from you on this. I'm going to go off topic. Can I go off topic?
Sure.
I know I can go off topic with you because you can hang with anything.
Yeah, we can go music from the 80s. We can go, you know, it's whatever.
I've been looking at that Cars album behind you. That's a classic.
Yes.
It is, I have found, and this is personal experience, our clients are in industries that have not been hugely affected yet.
Okay.
Are you seeing that?
It's a real hit and miss out there in the marketplace. I've got some clients that are having the best year they've ever had, and they just can't keep up.
Yeah.
And then I've had some that are in the industries that are struggling by default, and they're really, really having to pivot. And then there's the broad middle of people that are kind of doing okay. But we can talk about that going forward, and that's why I wrote the book. Is because I was talking with all these different companies and they were in different places. But back in March when I wrote that, everybody was confused.
we got to back up here because you just dropped a bomb that I haven't introduced.
Okay.
You wrote a book. Tell me what's the name of the book and why you wrote it and what the purpose of it is.
All right. It's how to develop high-performing teams during a pandemic. 5 steps.
Do you ever have to like look at the book to remind yourself of the name so you don't get it wrong?
Yes, I do.
I do that all the time. I'm so glad I'm not the only one. Okay.
It's 5 steps to coming out a stronger company on the other side.
Uh-huh.
And so I wrote that after talking with so many clients at the front end of all the shutdown. And there were some common themes that I was seeing, and there was a ton of noise. And so what I tried to do is create some clarity, just kind of cut through the noise a little bit and identify if you can just focus on 5 broad categories, then you're going to go a long way towards coming out of this thing better on the other side. And so that was the genesis of it.
Okay. So I'm going to throw one of the things that we do in this is we kind of agree on 3 questions that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to throw those away. All right. So those are now gone. Let's talk about the book because I think it's great. You've got 5 points to it, and I know the first one is about a North Star, finding your North Star. Yeah.
So there are 5 points to it. The first thing that I noticed my clients were struggling with was what's next.
Mm-hmm.
What is my company going to look like coming out of this thing? And so one of the common elements across all of my clients nationwide was, what the heck? What's going to happen, right? And so the number one thing is you got to find out and identify your new North Star. Don't rely on the old one. No, so let me be very candid here. I used to think that corporate vision and mission statements were a bunch of nonsense. Okay.
And then, have you had a change of heart?
I'm cleaning up my language.
You don't have to clean it up for me.
But done incorrectly or done to put a plaque on the wall, I still think they're nonsense. Mm-hmm. But for small and mid-market companies, they are paramount if you do them correctly. And they can be that North Star that is a benchmark against all of your decision making. Yeah. And so what am I going to ground? I got to create this new North Star. What do I want my company to look like on the other side of this? Because there will be another side of this or an other side of this. It's just, we don't know what it's going to look like exactly, but what do I want my company to look like? And more importantly, when I work with the CEOs of my clients, what do you want your life to look like coming out of this?
When you're saying that, you're not saying, what do you want your revenue goal to be? Or what do you want, how many employees do you want? You're looking a lot more holistically. So you're looking at almost the firm culture and who you want to be, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a macro concept of we're going there. Now that's the vision part of it. The mission part is how are we going to go there? Mm-hmm. And that comes into the business plan and that kind of thing. But
there's some mechanics there.
There's some mechanics there, but then, I'm a licensee for the Culture Index Intellectual Property. I built a big practice over the past 8 years, leveraging that to show business owners how to drive more revenue, profit, and to create sustainable scalability within their organization, right? Mm-hmm. And I spend the majority of my time on, what you said, right butts, right seats.
Yeah.
But that all starts with the CEO. And it all starts with what do I want? A lot of us, we just get into a rut, especially during the boom days that we've just exited from. Things were just skyrocketing. Some people were working hellacious hours and they were just riding the wave, right? Yeah. It's unsustainable. They maybe weren't having fun, but they were making a lot of money. And so this pause, what I noticed was the pause in the marketplace gave people an opportunity, a forced opportunity to stop. and to say, what the heck am I doing? What
And
is important to me?
reevaluate.
Yeah, 100%. And so find that new North Star. Create, write down what I want that to look like. If I want to spend more time on the beach than what I'm spending now, okay, great. What effect is that going to have on your company? And what
And
kind
what
of team?
company do you need to build to enable you to do that?
Yes, absolutely. And the first question that I ask in my book is, are you up for the fight?
Yeah.
That's the real question every CEO has to ask. Okay, fine. Oh, I want to dig out of this. All right, great. You're a CEO who's had this company, you've been rocking and rolling for 30 years. Do you want to do it again? If your company saw a huge setback, do you have it in you? Get real with yourself, starting with the CEO. Am I up for the fight? Do I want the fight? If not, peace, that's fine.
That's
But
great.
that's going to determine your plan and
Well,
the people around you.
I've been having a similar conversation with a bunch of people because, our phone is ringing off the hook. People are worried about their companies. They don't understand all the government programs, the PPP, the EIDL. They don't know what they should do. So I've been fielding a lot of phone calls, not from clients, but just from people. And I'm always happy to take those phone calls. And I'm always happy to answer the emails and set up calls so that we can chat. And one of the things I have found myself saying more and more and more is, should you really be taking on this debt? Is your company going to come out the other side? What is it going to look like? What is it going to be? And I think that your point of, do you have the fight in you, is such a good one, because I've talked to some people that really don't have the fight in them. And I can tell that instinctually on the phone.
I was running into that. Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't need to be taking out any more debt. Let's not take out any more debt. And then there are other people that have nothing but fight in them. Like it is do or die. And they're going to get it. And I'm like, you're taking on more debt? All right, that would scare the shit out of me, but you go for it, because I know that they've got that fight and that drive.
Yeah. It's time to get real. No fooling around. Are you up for the fight? And if you're not, that's okay. But then, the next chapter is to create 3 plans: a survival plan, a recovery plan, and then a growth plan. You've been, the financial side of this, you've been dealing with that right and left. The survival plan was, how much cash do we have? What can we do with our creditors? All that kind of stuff, right? Cash flow. But that plan is all driven by that North Star.
Yeah. Where do we want to be? How do we want to end up? We had a client who had to totally scrap. His business model was in-person training events. Okay. Needless to say, there have been 0 in-person training events.
Yeah.
And so we're like, you got to pivot. You got to figure it out. What is the plan? And we did. We had some options.
Okay, great.
What are you going to do? Which is what you're saying. All right. Worst case scenario, what's going to happen? What's the survival plan?
Yeah.
What's, I guess, the ideal plan?
The growth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last. Yeah. I mean, it's survival, recovery, and growth. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
And I didn't come up with anything novel in this book. I just packaged it in a way that I think fits the times, and it's that big of a book. It's real thick, or real thin rather. It's quick, but I published it as an ebook, or as a e-document, really as a PDF, and just shot it out to all of my clients back in March.
Yeah. And
I had clients just rip that off the printer and multiple copies and throw that on their conference room table and build their architecture around it.
Okay, wait a minute. So now you've said that is an ebook.
It was.
I'm going to put you on the spot. How do people get it?
It's now, you get it on Amazon. You go to robertpollock.com, and there's a link right there. Robert Pollock, RobertPollock.com, and there's a link right there. Click it. It sends you to Amazon. Last time I looked, they were giving away the Kindle version.
Okay, great. So Kindle version for free.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
think so. Last time I looked. Or the paperback, it's like a few bucks. It's no big deal. But
Yeah, because you're not looking to make money off of this. You're looking to help people. You're looking to give people a tool, right?
yeah, and I was like you early. I was fielding all kinds of calls from friends of clients and friends of friends, and I was like a switchboard operator, man. I was just like going from call to call or Zoom to Zoom, back and forth, and just having all these conversations. Everybody's in different places. It was a little crazy. I never slowed down.
Yeah, we
It's
haven't either.
insane.
Yeah, we're having different conversations, but yeah, not
Yeah.
slowing down. All right, so what are your 3 plans? Your survival, your recovery, and growth. So what are we going to do to get through this? What are we going to do once we're through this to recover from it? And then the third plan is what are we going to do to grow past that? So are they almost sequential plans?
Yeah, I think so. They had to be for the survival plans because I was having conversations with my clients. They were talking about this and that. And I'm like, hey, buddy, how's your cash?
Yeah. How much cash do you have? That's
Yeah,
our first question.
what are your receivables? What are your payables? What are the odds you're going to get those receivables coming in?
Yeah.
Kind of calls you. I mean, that's just survival. And then, okay, according to what we want to build, this North Star that we're going towards now, our vision, mission, and values, what kind of a machine do we have to build to get there?
Mm-hmm.
And then the growth is obviously the longer term.
Yeah.
Some people's growth plans is going to be cash out ASAP. A lot of people are saying, I don't have the fight in me, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a plan and I'm going to surround myself with the right people that maybe I could sell it to them or some leader that comes in, or we can go private equity, whatever. But I just need to recover to this point to get my money out.
Right.
Not where I was, but where it would be satisfactory to me. And then I'm going to leave the growth to somebody else.
Well,
That's fine.
We have 2 clients right now whose businesses have absolutely blown up during this in a really good way.
Yeah.
One is now doing 50% more a month than he did in all of last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So that's kind of it's a good problem, but it's a problem. And then we have another one who also has kind of an internet business and his growth has just exploded, and they're both looking to cash out.
Well, there you go. So what's your North Star? Well, my North Star is 2 years, 1 year, 6 months. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to cash out. Why? And then, you really got to have, as owners, our butts have been on the line for a long time. Our capital's on the line, our name's on the line. It's not, hey, yeah, we can just go get a new job tomorrow. We can, but what do we lose, right? It's not like our employees. We're just in a different spot. So, what's that North Star? And
what's the next thing?
What's it going to take?
And there's some people, my grandfather joked before he died that he was in private equity before private equity was a thing. He started 20 some odd companies.
Okay.
He loved the startup. And he'd start it and sell it and go do it again. 20 some odd times.
Wow.
And there are people that are like that. And that is their North Star. Like one of our clients that's looking to sell is already talking about what the next company is going to be.
Oh yeah. I got clients like that.
And he's like, this one's up, it's built, it's running. We're going to sell it off and take the money and do something new.
Yeah. And that's that next step or chapter in that book is that you got to evaluate your team.
Okay. So let's talk about team and evaluating your team.
Okay.
Go into more depth on that.
Yeah. So in team evaluation in my practice, so it's all about how do we get there from here, right? And so the evaluation's got to start with the CEO, with the owner.
That's a scary thing to say, Robert.
Okay, tell me why.
So when you say that, I hear like a 360 review kind of thing that you've heard about. No. And like immediately you start to think, are you talking about having my employees pass judgment on me and my performance?
I've seen that go south. that's a dicey proposition. No, I'm not. So again, in my advisory practice, I use an intellectual property out of Kansas City called Culture Index. It has the highest validity of anything out there. It's just razor sharp. It's very leverageable. Let me put it that way. It's highly, highly leverageable. And so every CEO I work with can understand the output because it's all on one page. I mean, it's simple output.
And you've given me incredible insight about my team with it. Like, my sister's miserable. You were the one that told me, what was I doing to her? Oh, I was giving her options and making her choose. And you're like, no, no, no. She's afraid you're setting her up for failure by doing
that. Really? I don't remember saying that, but.
Yeah. There's one person on the team and I'm like, I want more of her. And you're like, yeah, you're not going to find more of her. She's very hard to find.
Oh, okay.
But it's awesome that I could understand, like when you would look at it and you would tell me about them, I understood better and I understood what I needed. So one of the things that you said about everyone on my team for the most part is that we're not sensitive. We all kind of have elephant hides and you can kind of just say whatever. Mm-hmm. And there was someone on the team that didn't have one and you were like, that's going to be a problem. Because the rest of you are pretty blunt and they're just going to put it out there and that person's feeling. Your phrase was, she wears her heart on her sleeve.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know that now. I know that when we hire, we need people that can live in that environment.
Yeah. And so with the CEO, our job is to know ourselves as well as possible and know who to surround ourselves with. And by knowing, what my hard wiring is, that's where I spend all of my time is around that hard wiring of people. And then knowing, what, I can generate more revenue or profit if I sit in this seat, if I spend my time doing these things as much as possible. So I need to build a team around me that I can jettison all that other stuff. Not that I can't do it, but so I can jettison all that other stuff, right? I mean, so this is a theory that a lot of people say. I just get to do it with high precision. But it's evaluating the CEO first, seeing what your seat on that bus needs to be, because you've got a couple of seats as a business owner. You've got the owner's box, and then you've got your slot on your org chart for the day-to-day job. Right. And so a lot of my clients are wanting to spend more and more time in their owner's box, feet in the sand on the beach in Cabo somewhere maybe, or starting another business, et cetera. Right. And they want to be in the right seat in their org chart also. If I sell lights out, I don't want to be in ops. I don't want to be in operations all day. Can I do it? Yeah. But it's every minute I'm spending in operations, it's costing me money 6 months or 12 months from now.
Right.
Makes sense?
And so that's something else that's so much more valuable. And it's so funny. I look at what business owners want to shed. And in our world, the first thing they need to get rid of is their stinking bookkeeping. I'm like, really? You're running $1 million business and you're doing your bookkeeping? I have a new client, $2 million a year.
Yeah.
Law firm.
What's your hourly rate, buddy?
He is the one that runs payroll.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, oh yes, that's gonna stop. I don't know that I've told him that. If he's watching, by the way, you're not gonna run payroll anymore.
I mean, what's your hourly rate? What's an hour of your time worth?
Yeah.
And then so it goes beyond that to what's an hour of your time worth mentally and emotionally? You're the freaking owner. It's your capital. Put yourself in a situation that is good for you. And then know how to get the right butts in the right seats and know how to lead them in their unique ways based on their requirements every day to maximize their enjoyment in their job and their productivity. I mean, that's the whole evaluate the team. But here's the thing that I always encourage is evaluate yourself first, what's my hard wiring? What's my sweet spot? What are my skills? What are my, experiences, that kind of thing. The management team second, and then and only then that the rest of the team.
Because here's the thing, if you don't know who you are and what your strengths are and where you should be living, how do you possibly know who you should be putting in place around you to support you?
100%. Yeah.
I mean, your bliss may be in ops. That may be the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
That may be the place where you can give the most value to your company. But everyone says, oh, the owner, you should be out doing marketing. And so you hire an ops guy and you're over in marketing where you suck.
Yeah. So, that's, again, Brooke, this isn't novel, but here's, there's nothing new under the sun. I read that from a wise king thousands of years ago said that. So here's the thing. So what I found during the pandemic, in every aspect of the business, the thing that's going to move you forward is intentionality. Mm-hmm. It's being intentional, and it's being intentional about creating your North Star. Where are we going? Where do I want to go? Mm-hmm. If I want to change or not. It's intentional about evaluating your team, making sure you've got the right team around you to get where you're wanting to go. You know this, you've talked about it. It's being intentional about looking at your financial situation. Right. How are we doing things? Are we making money or not? In a boom market, boom markets, rising tides, I mean, all that kind of stuff, that stuff papers over a lot of errors.
Oh, yeah.
See them. In this market, you better be intentional about every aspect of your business. And here's what I firmly believe in all of my 34 years of professional experience and working with CEOs using my program for the past 8 years. It's your people are your number one indicator for future success or failure.
I 100% believe that. And there's a great book. Hold on. I got it right here. Uh-huh. What Got You Here Won't Get You There by Marshall Goldsmith. Mm-hmm. And this is really about who you are as the leader, what got you here, and how you have to change to take to the next level. But it's true for everything. The team that got you here probably isn't going to be the team that got you there. And as you grow and as you become a bigger company, as you get closer to whatever that North Star is, you're probably going to have to upgrade your team.
Yeah.
You can outgrow people, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I think it's really hard emotionally.
Yeah, that's a part of that evaluating your team. I said, this is going to suck. And that's one doing it because of that right there. You outgrow people. Or you've got people on your team for so many years. Now all of a sudden their pay scale is here. Market doesn't support that anymore. Yeah. But they're a very good person.
They were so amazing for you to get you to a specific place, and you will forever be grateful to them for that. But they're now maxed out, and the Peter principle has taken over, where you promote someone to the level of their incompetence.
Yes. How often do you think I see that when I evaluate companies?
Let me guess, at least once a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time you evaluate a company, there's at least one.
Yeah, it's like, who is this? Okay, how are they doing for you? Wow, they used to do great. Yeah. Up to what revenue did they do great?
And it's heart-wrenching because, especially when you're starting a company and when you're small, you are so close to and you're so invested, and there's so scrappy little team going. Uh-huh. And then you get to the point where you're like, how do I let this person who was so important and did so much to get us here, how do I let go of them? Or how do I bring somebody in over them without offending them?
Yeah.
Like it becomes much more of an emotional, personal decision than it is about business.
Yeah, and so here's a piece that helps with that and helps in my practice is having data on people to see what's between their ears, so you know why they're incapable. It's not that they're the bad person. It's not that they're not smart. It's just, oh, they're just, I can see data. So now that personal side becomes a little bit easier, especially if you've been torturing that person to try to make them into something they're not every day for the past 2 years.
I was going to say, being able to see that normally, or I think a lot of times, what you can show people and what we have found when our clients have actually had the conversation is that person's miserable.
Absolutely. And that's what I say. That person's miserable. No, they're not. Yes, they are.
Yes.
And I can see it. I don't have to know them. I don't have to know anything about them because I'm looking at my data. That person's miserable. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
What do you mean they're miserable? They've been for 2 years.
Right. You're torturing them. You're asking them to do something. And they are doing it for the same reason you have promoted them and you haven't fired them, is they are dedicated to you and your company and your mission. But they are just as miserable in the job as you are frustrated at their inability to do it.
How many, so here's, is it okay if we get very real now?
Yeah.
How many partnerships do you deal with and talk to where that's happened to one of the partners or one of the principals? I mean,
Robert, do you not know my history with this issue?
I may have known it, but I don't remember it.
I am notorious, absolutely notorious for breaking up partnerships.
Okay.
Because they will come in and it's usually one partner driving it, and the other partner gets like dragged in or just says you're in charge. And it doesn't take us very long to find the inequality.
And what happens over time? What happens with that inequality? What happens to that relationship?
Resentment.
100%. Yes, absolutely. Every time.
You've got to get out before you hate this person.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes when people get divorced, they're like, I had to divorce him or I had to divorce her before I hated them so much because I couldn't put the children through that.
Wow. And that's very real. That's a tough one. That is very tough. Now, I had a situation, it's not exactly that situation, but that reminded me. Several years ago, I had I think it was a third generation owner of a industrial business, manufacturing business. Third generation.
Family.
Why do you say uh-oh?
It is my experience. By the time you get to the third generation, there are so many stakeholders. You've got generations of people, you've got their children, there's grandchildren.
Oh, I
who's
got it.
Who's going to be in charge?
That can happen. Yeah. So this was the one son or grandson who was in charge. So it was one of the cleaner situations that I've seen.
Oh, that's good.
Situation. So it was good. But the company had stagnated, right? Just plateaued and been running along for a long time. And so talk about getting real with the CEO. I'm like, what do you want to do with this company? What's your goal? And once I talked to him a little bit, and he knew that I knew how he was hardwired, which is pretty startling to them. But once he got over that, he said, I got a lake house and I want to spend all of my time. I want to move out there with my family and I want to spend all my time out there. And so I'm like, okay, all right. I can't help you with that, unless you're willing to change, make some big changes. And so I had used my survey. I surveyed every one of their employees,
Yeah.
and I thumbed through them online, and I'm like, who's this guy? And he told me, well, he runs, so they have a sales and then a manufacturing team or company. And so he runs the manufacturing. So I'm like, okay, get me on the phone with that guy.
I want him.
Yeah. I want to schedule another call with you. I want him on the call, but I need to know how you're going to react if when I ask him the question, he says, yes, I am interested in buying your company. I've never met these people. They're out of state, but I just surveyed their entire folks and had probably a 30-minute conversation with that third generation owner at that point. Right. And he was like, no, that's not going to happen. I'm like, okay, I'm not getting on that call unless you tell me that you're prepared.
You're prepared.
Because I'm going to ask him. And
I
so
think this is going to solve all your problems.
So sure enough, so we got on this call, and I go through my my data with him, and he's a real skeptical guy, and so I asked him the question, and he said, "Oh yeah, I think about that all the time," and the owner didn't know it, and so I said, okay, so talked with them a little bit more, and said, you guys got some things to figure out. If you want out, you got a guy who's interested. I don't know if you can work the finances out in the deal. I don't know, but you guys got to work that out. Let me know if I can help you, past that. And they said, thank you. Amazing. I get a call, a voicemail out of the blue a year later. And said, hey, we've struck a deal. We're ready to talk. We need to make sure we got the right people in the right seats to execute this transaction, and I am going to grow this company. It was the guy who was acquiring that reached out to me. Yeah. And it was that was it's not exactly a partner situation, where they came in. This is like a good deal where they didn't become partners, but he had a guy sitting in his company willing to fulfill his North Star dream of cashing out and spending time at the lake. And over about a year and a half, they executed their game plan and finalized the transaction. That was phenomenal. But you have good data on people. It helps in every decision that you make.
Yeah. All right. So that's the fourth question. The fourth point, right?
Huh?
All right.
Which one?
Are
you talking? No, the fourth one's employee development and engagement.
Oh gosh, we haven't even gotten there. Sorry, I thought we'd moved on to 4. We were still on.
We're talking development. It's woven into all this. Anytime you're building a team, there's certain components of it, but it all meshes together. The thing I saw early in the pandemic was a big need for that employee engagement and development because everyone was on an island.
Okay, can we talk for a second?
Yeah.
WTF is employee engagement.
Okay. Tell me what you think about that.
Like, sometimes you think it's butt in seat. Well, that's not what people are looking for when they're talking about employee engagement, right? They're not talking about fingers typing on a keyboard.
No.
How do you define employee engagement? And how do you track it? Because you like data. We're all about making data-driven decisions. Where do you get that data?
Yeah, so I base it on the scorecard for the position. Are they hitting it or not?
Okay.
If not, look, I have data that would tell me if there's predictable success, if they should predictably hit the metrics. Mm-hmm. But even if you don't have the data, are they hitting it or not?
Right. Are they hitting whatever goal that you set for them, whatever metrics you have for their job, whether it's billable hours, clients brought in, widgets manufactured, whatever it is.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
That's the best indicator you've got. And then stack on top of that, leadership.
Okay.
You can't abdicate leadership. You've got to be connected to these people and know what they need from you, from the organization. We call them yeah, motivating needs, but it's what do they need from me as a leader? And once I know that with data, then I can deliver that, and I know I'm going to increase engagement. Doesn't mean they're going to stay with me forever, because circumstances can come up and they may leave. You know, it's the old Richard Branson effect of develop your people so well that they're marketable and they may leave, but treat them so well along the way that they want to stay.
They never want to go. Yeah.
Yeah. But employee engagement back in March, think about that, March and April, everybody was wondering what the heck's going on. Is the company still going to be in business? I haven't seen anybody in forever. And so early on in that was prime opportunity to really amp up your reach out to your employees. Absolutely critical.
Yeah, we did daily huddles. So we are a virtual company. We've always been a virtual company. So the pandemic started, and it wasn't that all of a sudden we were virtual. It's much more that everybody's family was also virtual. So there were hysterical conversations. Things like, just because I haven't finished my lunch doesn't mean that you can eat it, was a common theme. Everyone has a designated workspace. And my personal favorite, you may not leave your designated workspace while on a conference call. There was a husband that would roam the house on a headset.
Oh, wow.
And have calls. And then one of them was, we were on a Zoom one day, and someone had dialed in. I'm like, where's your camera? My husband stole it. I'm like, okay, Amazon, it'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, those were different days. Now what we've seen is Zoom fatigue.
Yes.
And so, but you've got to be connected to your team to know these things. So that employee engagement, I don't mean that in a soft sense. I mean that in a how do we get more done faster sense.
Yep.
And I've got to be connected with my team. We've got some big brands right now that have recognized that there's this Zoom fatigue. So they've recognized a couple of things relative to employees in this distributed workforce or work from home. So one, Zoom fatigue is happening.
Yep.
And so what was very beneficial in March and April, maybe May still really, has now become overload. And so now they've got to tweak that back a little bit.
Yeah.
One organization, this multinational, they said no more Zoom calls on Fridays, period.
Really?
We're cutting our people some slack. Just don't, no, illegal. I
gotta tell you, as a girl, like, it's so much easier for you guys to get up and get on Zoom because, you know, brush your hair, you're done. I went to get my hair done. Yes, I managed to get an appointment. And one of the things that my hairdresser said is that people were coming in with the healthiest hair they had ever seen because they were washing it, they were letting it air dry, no styling, no products, whatever. They did not tell me that. I'm like, no, I'm on freaking Zoom every day. It requires hair, it requires makeup.
And and so on the engagement piece though, the things that you're talking about play in. The home life situation plays in. So you got to be dialed into that. You got to be sensitive to that. And and there's some good data on some increased productivity with a number of my clients. Productivity went through the roof, at least at first. But the nasty downside of work from home is not shutting it off.
So I was reading, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal this week, that some companies, they were finding that work happened differently. And I can't remember if it was Microsoft. I think it was Microsoft was looking at the usage of Teams across time. And they noticed an increase between 8 and 9, which is when people are normally commuting.
Okay.
So people were leaving for work at the same time, but instead of getting in their car and driving an hour, they were walking down the stairs and starting in 30 seconds instead of 30 minutes. And then they also saw a big uptick between 8 and 10 p.m. And I know that I've lived that. when I first started this company, I was working from my kitchen table, and I would sit. I've got a big kitchen. I'm actually in my kitchen at the moment, but I've got a big kitchen with a couch and everything. And
Bragger.
I'd sit there and watch TV, and I could hear my computer going off, email. So I had to move my office upstairs to what we call the cloffice, the closet. It's 8 by 20. So I moved my office in there so I could close the door at the end of the day. And I realized that I had to, when I left my office at 6 o'clock, I had to close the door, because if it was open when I went upstairs to go to bed, I'd walk by that door and I'd stick my head in, and I would find myself at 10 o'clock at night emailing my West Coast clients.
Yep. Yeah. And so
it's hard to shut it off.
Engagement from that standpoint, not the soft engagement. I'm talking about legit. How engaged are you? How connected are you with your people?
Yeah.
It was also a great time, and still is to a certain degree, a great time to add skills and knowledge on top of everything else they're doing, because a lot of people had slowed down on their day-to-day grind workload. Mm-hmm. And so there was some extra time in there. That was a great opportunity to feed into your employees and to develop them that way.
Do most of your clients have like a employee development budget every year?
I can't say most do. I don't think most do. What do you see?
I see a lot of development built in for owners. I don't see as much for employees. And when we were doing, and I actually used the evil B word, we don't like the word budget. We think it's a limiting, horrible word. We like the word profit plan.
Okay.
Same function, but wouldn't you rather have a profit plan than a budget?
Hey, I'll roll with you. That's all right.
So when we were profit planning in our company, it was interesting because, so we've got two divisions. The head of one of our divisions wanted a development budget, and it was a big development budget. I'm like, really? What are you doing with all of that? But, okay, if you can tell me what you're going to do with it, and it's going to build the skill set of your people, that's amazing. Now, I will say, because of the pandemic and the business we're in, they haven't spent it because they've been too busy working.
Busy, yeah. So every organization has to look at that, and still in August, you're still going to need to look at that. Yeah. But what my clients are most focused on around that now is they've identified who the right players are. Mm-hmm. They've made some of those tough decisions that they tell me, hey, I know this should have been made like 6 months ago. I'm sorry that it took this and a downturn of our booming economy to make that happen. But now they, once you've got the right butts in the right seats, as owners, we're a lot more willing to feed into them or to develop them. Right, for training and et cetera, because I know what they need and I know how to leverage it.
And I think that everybody else on the team is also more willing to feed into people, because I can't tell you how many times we have watched the companies that we work with get rid of somebody who was like, they probably shouldn't have been on the bus to begin with, much less they weren't in the right seat.
Yep.
The minute you get them off the bus, everybody's so much happier.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody is so much more productive. Like it's just like it's a whole new company.
And they go to the CEO and say, what took you so long?
Yeah, what took you? Thank you so much. Yeah, why did you make us suffer like this?
Yeah. So whenever we're talking about adding to teams, we've got a way to leverage the players that are in the organization already to identify kind of what the ideal person would look like. And, part of that conversation says, hey, how many times have we brought in chuckleheads to work alongside you that you just looked at us like we're insane?
Yeah.
And do you want to help us avoid doing that again.
We
Okay.
got away.
So, all right. So now, can we involve you in this process of minimizing our probabilities of that happening again? And every one of them says, heck yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm an A player, and whenever you bring these C player chuckleheads that are wrong fit for the job, I end up having to do part of their work, or I end up having to train them, or it's just over and over and over again. Not once training, but it's just insane, and it kills their productivity as well.
Right. And I am pretty sure you and I have talked about that grid that I use, where we talk about core values on the vertical axis. Are they a match to your core values, and what's their productivity level on the Y? And you've got the top right, which are the stars,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got the bottom left, who are the exact opposite of a star. Spelled backwards, it's a rat.
Yep.
So you've got your star and your rats. And then in the top left, you have your puppies. They're totally cute. They're a great core value match.
But
everybody loves them.
Yeah.
But like a puppy, they piddle all over the floor and are completely useless. But aren't they cute? We just like them.
Yeah. So in a booming market, you hold on to those people because, especially, so we just came out of full employment,
right,
nationwide, and it was really hard to find right people before the lockdown, before the pandemic, right? And so that was in full employment, and so you just hang on to them, whether a body, even if they're giving me 30% productivity, that's a 30% I need, and I'm afraid that I can't replace them.
Right, and we may be able to train them to become a star, but the worst is that bottom right quadrant, that highly productive but bad core value match, and we call those terrorists.
Yep.
And the most frustrating thing, and the reason why I brought this up, is to those stars, because the terrorists get all the attention. Yes. You start building walls around them. They're holding you hostage because they say you can't lose us, because your whole business will go down the tubes. And the poor stars are sitting there going, I'm good and I'm whatever, and you risk losing those people. So when you get rid of those terrorists and then you involve the stars in hiring new people, it just binds them to your company so much deeper.
Yeah, I call that Robert Pollock's high maintenance factor scale. So everybody has a scale over their head that it's contribution versus maintenance level.
Yep.
And the minute that thing goes upside down, where you're higher maintenance than your contribution, you're gone.
You're out.
Organizations will put up with a lot if you're in that quadrant, unfortunately, but they are living on the edge, and it can tip at any point, and you got to get rid of them. That's a pretty tough call, especially in sales. If they're a sales leader, but they are a pain in the neck, and they're causing all kinds of grief. And
we don't need PIA employees. Okay, hold on. So we have 5 minutes. I promised you 1 hour. We're going to end on time, and we have a fifth topic to cover. What's the fifth thing?
Yeah, recruiting. Continue recruiting during this pandemic, but you got to be clever about it, and you've got to be candid. So you're looking for those A players that are out there. Look, the C players got cut first. We get that. We're not interested in them. But there are A players that are on the street, no fault of their own, just because of their companies. Okay, and so I want to so my clients that are growing, that are preparing themselves to come out of this stronger, they're scooping up some A players that are now available on the market that weren't there before. And so also the even bigger category, Brooke, are the A players that are currently employed. Heads up, all you business owners, your A players are watching you, and they're evaluating you and the organization and whether or not you're quality enough for them. So companies are are right sizing or rather elevating their workforce, right? They're trying to top grade, if you will, their workforce. But A players are top grading their employers. And some of some of the biggest gets my clients are getting are from these players that are fully employed. Their company thinks there's no way they're going to leave in this market, but they're looking for a new opportunity because they see bad leadership, cracks in the organization, lost. They don't have a clear vision for where they're going. Their plans stink. Anyway, A players have options, always do. Yeah. And so you've got to be clever with that as well. You know, my clients have a way to really target and market the mindset of the people that they're looking for because they know what they're looking for. And so when they are casually reading through ads, they stop and go, oh my gosh, who are these people? That's me.
Because they're speaking right to me.
Right to them. Even if you can't hire them today, recruit. The big boys have stopped. They're starting to spend a lot of money on recruiting again. But the big brands stopped there for a while. They just cut their advertising budget for recruiting off. That's a prime opportunity for small and mid-market companies to rise to the top. Yeah. And if you know what you're looking for and you can target them like a sniper, then you can get them, and you're preparing yourselves to come out really strong on the other side.
That's awesome. Okay, so Robert, to get your book, they need to go to robertpollock.com, POLLOCK.com. And if they want to talk to you, can they get to you through your website, or what's the best way to contact you?
That's a great way to do it. It's just robert@robertpollock.com. Shoot me an email. We'll get on the phone. I do free evaluations for CEOs of their company. I mean, that's just what I do on a regular basis. I need to look at the company. You need to look at your company. And so I've got a quick way to survey them and to get a bead on who's in the right seat and who's not.
Well, that means once you've done that, you can have a much more impactful conversation, even if people don't move forward with you. Just the amount of information and the self-awareness and the awareness of their people that they get out of spending an hour with you is incredible.
And you've seen that happen. So
I have seen that happen.
My goal is to give value every conversation. And so everybody walks away with actionable value that day they can use immediately after we hang up, whether they engage with me or not.
Well, and I have always been amazed that you give so much value for free.
Oh, thanks, Brooke.
Yeah. Like it is mind-boggling.
Appreciate it.
All right. Robert@robertpollock.com, robertpollock.com to get the book. Yep. Robert Pollock, you are awesome. And I so appreciate you being here. Do you have any last parting words? No,
enjoy your weekend. You know, I mean, it's Friday. We've been hustling hard all week, man. It's time to just kind of relax a little bit. On a serious note, if you're a CEO in this market or any market, especially now, stress is high. Make sure that you block some downtime on your calendar and you freaking take it. Don't minimize that. It's critically important. I absolutely agree. Robert, thank you so much for coming on. We'll talk to you soon. My pleasure. Thank you.